The film opens on a space trip when a ship is struck by meteorites and starts to lose altitude. General Raymond is dispatched by rocket to rescue them when the pilot phones the base to request assistance. Just before the explosion, the youngster attaches himself to the rescue tube, allowing the crew members to transfer him to their spacecraft. After rescuing every astronaut, Raymond makes his way out and heads back to Earth. Raymond is commended for finishing his assignment while being photographed by reporters, and the great general and his squad are welcomed with a magnificent celebration upon their arrival on the planet. The young man awakens to his little sister's screaming after hearing his grandma call for him. The youngster is disappointed to learn that the entire journey was a dream and that he must now get up and go to school. Raymond needs to rush to say farewell to his parents. Sophie tells her brother, who is heading to the airport. The child wishes his mother a safe journey, then heads to school, stopping along the route to see his pals. Susie asks the child if he has prepared for the maths oral exam, and Raymond replies that he has entirely forgotten about it. All he can do now is hope he's not called. But away from the teacher, Miss Liu ends up picking Raymond to respond to a question on the board during class, and the youngster is compelled to be honest. He claims that because he spent the entire night with his parents because they were leaving for a trip the next day, he was unable to study. Disappointed, the instructor instructs the class by using Raymond as an example, encouraging the kids to put in extra effort in the classroom to get high marks. The youngster consistently receives the lowest mark in his class since he has a tendency to skip his lessons. Raymond would rather spend his time showing his pals the spaceship he made for the science project and daydreaming about what it would be like to be an astronaut. But John grows impatient with his pal and begins to make fun of him, telling him that building that rocket won't be possible. Then, annoyed by the jeers, Raymond makes the decision to go. Upon arriving home, he hears his grandmother telling Sophie that there is a magic gourd that grants all of his desires, but she insists that this is all just a fairy tale. After stating this, Raymond walks upstairs to his room and settles in to finish his homework. However, he soon nods off and dreams about riding his bicycle through a forest in search of a lake. The boy sees a frog and rushes after it to catch it as some birds fly by and point, but the frog dives into the water and escapes. Raymond discovers to his amazement that something weighty has hooked his hook as he settles down to fish on the pier. The young guy approaches the thing slowly, attempting to identify it. He flings a rock in its direction, and just then it looks like an arm is grabbing hold of the rock. Abruptly, the beast breaks into speech, identifying itself as Bailey, the magical gourd. When Raymond sees the thing approaching him, he becomes depressed, but then he recalls the tales his grandmother told him and understands that this creature is not out to hurt him. Bailey asserts that he is able to grant the boy's requests. Raymond chooses to investigate the gourd's abilities because he doesn't completely trust this tale. When he begs the monster to have the fish leap into his bucket, it doesn't happen right away. Raymond gives up with frustration. Bailey tells the youngster as he leaves that Raymond must come to an agreement with him before he can grant any desires. This arrangement entails keeping the magic gourd's presence a secret from everyone, as only the boy is aware of its abilities. After all, mankind would start searching for the creature and putting pressure on it to satiate their every need if they discover that it actually exists. When the monster hears this, the young guy tries to comfort him by saying he would keep his secret. Raymond then takes control of the magic gourd and utilizes its abilities to grant the boy's first desire. The lake's fish start to float at that moment, and Raymond selects which ones to put in his bucket. Raymond then makes a wish for a feast that includes all of his favorite foods, and the plates appear to be floating in front of him. Following the delectable dinner, the child informs Bailey as he rests down on the pier that he has never been on an aeroplane but that he hopes to be able to fly someday. In an attempt to make this fantasy come true as quickly as possible, the gourd asks Raymond to fly in his plane and takes on the role of pilot while Raymond has fun. The young guy begs Bailey to drive him to school so he can show his buddies the fish he caught. He is thrilled that he can view his town from a perspective he has never seen before. When Raymond gets there, Sean and Dan greet him and are delighted by the variety of fish that Raymond has been able to capture. The youngster rides his bike home with the creatures in an aquarium after he shows Professor Liu. A young guy is having a conversation with the magic gourd when his sister enters the room and inquires as to who he is speaking with. Sophie begins crawling about on the floor, trying to find the weird thing, but Raymond gives her an excuse to get her out of there. Fortunately, the little girl's grandma arrives and takes her for a wash. The child goes to check for Bailey when they leave the room, and after fleeing away from Sophie, he finds the small monster resting under the blanket. Raymond visits the library the following morning to request that Hannah be given a book to borrow. The girl explains that she needs to reserve the book since Fred, the boy she likes, has requested her to, thus she is unable to borrow it. Raymond is annoyed as he has to prepare for his biology test. The gourd then makes the miraculous decision to step in and make the book materialize in his master's rucksack. The young man is terrified when he realizes what has occurred because he knows that if they find out that he took the book from the library, there would be repercussions. Then out of nowhere, Sean approaches him covertly and offers to play chess with him, but he declines, saying he needs to get to work. After that, Raymond begs Bailey to make the item vanish and tosses the book out of the library. The gourd utilizes his abilities to make the book fly away when he and his companion play the game after that. After that, he goes to watch the youngster play chess, and when he says he would devour all of his opponents, Bailey chooses to grant his wish. Raymond eventually swallows every piece in this manner and has to sprint outside to spit them out. He tries to catch the scientific book that is flying around the campus at that very moment, but he is unable to do so. Bailey then chases after the book with a flying hat, and they both fall into the fitness center's pool. Raymond leaps into the water without hesitation to get the book as soon as he gets there, and the coach is amazed at how quickly the young guy can swim. As a result, he extends an invitation to him to join his swimming team since the group is without one member, and there will be a tournament in a few weeks. As he waits for his clothes to dry by the pool, Raymond accepts the invitation. The child is curious about his team's chances of winning the swimming tournament. At this, Bailey declares that the youngster will always be victorious as long as he is alive. The gourd uses Raymond's slumber as a chance to tidy his room and places all of his soiled clothing in the basket. After that, he arranges all of his school equipment and stashes his clean clothing in a drawer. Bailey organizes everything, goes to bed, and wakes up his master the next morning in order to avoid being late for school. Raymond does not have to rush off to school that day since it is quite hot, and the grandma is happy when she finds the youngster enjoying breakfast without her having to wake him up. In order to keep the youngster from coming to class sweaty, Bailey volunteers to ride the bike. Raymond gradually wins Professor Lou over by doing well in class and using the magic gourd to his advantage. He is no longer the worst student in his class and is able to raise his marks. Bailey assists the youngster even during swimming practice. He hides beneath the boy's body and uses his speed to propel him around the pool. The coach is astounded to find that the young guy finished the course in record time and congratulates him on his extraordinary talent. After supper that night, Raymond notices that John was correct when he stated it was difficult to build the rocket after looking at the drawing of the rocket he created for a school assignment. The youngster realizes that this project is even more difficult than the last one when he sketches a new one. Bailey then used magic to build a mechanical dog, which he presents as his newest creation the next day at school. Dan challenges Raymond's dog to a robot fight, as his co-workers applaud him on his innovation. Controlling the monster is Bailey, who defeats Dan's robot in a battle simulation by using a frog as an opponent. Raymond becomes quite agitated when the robot dog squirms and stops working when one of his co-workers touches it. The young man begs the gourd to mend the robot later, blaming him for creating such a delicate machine. The two decide to examine a toy store they come upon on their way home by going inside. The sight of remote control helicopters and other very advanced robotics excites Raymond beyond belief. He does, however, unexpectedly run across Dan. The child says he chose to follow his classmate when he saw him walk into the store. Then he charges that he purchased the robot dog that he used to overcome him. Raymond leaves the store in an effort to avoid answering any of Dan's queries, and Bailey comes up with a plan to win over his boss. All the toys come to life thanks to the gourd, who then commands them to proceed to the boys' chamber. It's too late when the business owner discovers his toys are missing. When Raymond and Dan go to the cinema before leaving for home, they find that the dinosaur movie they want to watch has sold out of tickets. Raymond is adamant about watching the movie, so Bailey chooses to take him into the big screen because there isn't room in the theater. The young man quickly learns that he is being pursued by a T-Rex and has found himself in a difficult situation. The pursuit is being watched with amusement by the crowd, and the magical gourd is sitting on the steps to watch his master act. When Bailey uses his jet to breach the screen and bomb the dinosaur, the animal manages to drag Raymond back and is about to eat him. Raymond had tried to flee the predicament by escaping through the TV screen. The joy for everyone who went to see the movie ends when the gourd flees after saving Raymond and converts the T-Rex into a fossil. The child expresses his dissatisfaction with Bailey on the drive home. However, the gourd had committed many mistakes, and he had no idea that the worst was still to come. Raymond hears a terrifying noise, like something is coming, as he is riding his bicycle. When he turns to look behind him, he is astounded to discover hundreds of toys racing in his direction. Startled, the youngster keeps walking and soon finds that those toys are making their way to his house as well. Raymond enters his room and attempts to remove the toy army after seeing that everything has gotten out of hand. The young guy is obliged to seek Bailey for assistance once again when he sees that his parents are returning from a trip, and he gives the gourd instructions to return all of those toys to the store. Fortunately, the two are able to eliminate all of those animals before they raise any red flags. A few minutes afterward, Raymond's father visits the youngster in his room and requests that he go with him to the living room. There, as a prize for joining the swimming squad, the young guy finds he has won a bicycle and is overjoyed with his present. The gourd believes he is failing in his goal to satisfy his lord when he sees Raymond pleased with his new bicycle. In order to help the youngster with his upcoming maths test, she heads to his room and spends the entire night studying. When Bailey tries to wake him up in the morning, he is shocked to see that Raymond got out of bed without his assistance. The youngster says he is excited to take the test because he knows his parents would be pleased when he receives their first grade. Exams are distributed by Professor Liu to the students in class, and Raymond waits for the solutions to appear out of nowhere as his peers go through the questions. Bailey tries to observe the exam questions through the glass pane while concealed in a tree outside the room, but he is unable to learn his master's answers in time. Raymond understands he is in trouble when the exam's expected deadline approaches since he hasn't been able to answer any of the questions. As Susie submits her assessment, one of the final students, Bailey notices that she has answered nearly every question correctly. The girl's responses are subsequently transferred to Raymond's sheet by him using his powers. Professor Liu asks Susie what occurred after noticing that her test is blank. Shortly after, Raymond gives Professor Liu the test. Susie's name is scribbled on that piece of paper, and that's when the woman realizes something is off. She is upset with her friend for attempting to steal her test when she finds out what has transpired. She chooses to take the youngster to the board because she believes he is trying to fool his instructor, but Raymond manages to get away and flees to the lake. When Bailey appears later, the youngster holds him responsible for all of his difficulties. As Raymond promises to boil the gourd, Bailey chooses to grant his request and bursts into flames. But the youngster gets a severe burn on his hand as the fire strikes him. Enraged, Raymond declares this entity to be a monster and gives it an immediate order to depart. Bailey starts to change and assume a terrifying aspect. The magic gourd says that it is a mirror of its master's deepest wishes and that the monster is affected by his thoughts about his look. The boy is then being pursued by it. But Bailey transforms back into himself and attempts to persuade the youngster to give him another opportunity when Raymond tells him to go. But Raymond decides he's had enough of the gourd and returns it to its original location in the lake. The youngster is discovered a short while later by his pals and instructor, who are beginning to worry about him. Miss Liu then brings him to the hospital, where she treats his burn and tells the youngster that it is unacceptable to cheat and that he should work hard to achieve his goals. Upon his release, the young guy recognizes that his buddies are waiting for him outside and begs Susie's pardon for pilfering his exam. At this moment, the girl offers her forgiveness and promises to assist him in getting ready for the impending exams. In order to help his team win the swimming championships, which are in a few weeks, Raymond has been practicing diligently every day. He puts in a lot of work and becomes one of his team's greatest players. Bailey is unable to leave his master in spite of everything that has transpired, so she observes him from a distance. When Raymond discovers the youngster within the gourd, he is filled with pride and happiness at the boy's commitment. After the two friends parted ways a month ago, Raymond's team's competition day has finally arrived. The youngster has the power to win. He can win the title if he is quick enough. Fortunately, Raymond succeeds in winning the trophy for his team with a lot of support from his family and co-workers. He rushes to the lake after winning the tournament to give Bailey his medal and express gratitude to the gourd for helping him win. Raymond learns at this same moment that the monster was not present at the tournament, nor did it affect the result of the competition because the youngster had stated he no longer desired its assistance. Raymond is really happy with himself after learning that he won the prize by himself. He also understands that his instructor was correct when she emphasized that every effort is appreciated. The youngster had not celebrated his win up until that point, but now that he knows what has transpired, he is filled with pride and excitement. The gourd asserts that he no longer needs Bailey's assistance and that it's time to depart in order to assist another youngster in fulfilling their dreams, despite the fact that Bailey has made several mistakes and is unable to stop the competition. After that, Bailey bids Raymond farewell by perching on a bird. He asks the youngster to preserve its secret forever as a final request before he departs. Raymond will always remember their little time together with fondness and will never forget their relationship, even with all the hardship and tough times he had with that gourd. The youngster sees a cloud in the sky that is the same form as Bailey as he wakes up from a few hours of sleep. The youngster questions if his recollections are true at that same moment or whether everything was really a dream. In actuality, though, it makes no difference because the youngster learned the necessary lesson from that gourd, true or not. What are your thoughts on this film? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more. Until we meet again.